This is SBR's Football Betting Daily.
Take us to kickoff.
Welcome into the student section for Thursday alongside Big Man on Campus. I am Drew Martin. College football's here, big man. It's starting tonight. We got a big Friday card as well and a bunch of Saturday action. How you feeling, buddy?
I'm doing great, Drew. Always good to talk to you here on a Thursday. This is now a something we do every week, and I always look talking to you on the student section. So good to be back, Drew.
Yeah, guys, and I'm excited to talk to you, get your opinions on some of these games. I'm about to finalize my card here, so I want to go over a couple things with you and the chat box as well. So, guys in the chat box, please give us a thumbs up sign and let your buddies know about it. If you could retweet, share on social media, that'd be great. Big man, let's not spoil the lead here. We got to talk about a couple games for SBR, and let's get right into it. Heading out west, we got a big one. The arguably the biggest game of the Pac-12 so far. Stanford and Oregon. We all remember the big time matchups they've had in years past. This should be a good one. Stanford going on the road to Oregon, and looks like laying 256 the total. This one on ABC Saturday night. What's your first thought in betting this game, big man?
My first thought in my first thought in it was to take the points because I look at Oregon and I think this team is vastly improved. I think on defense is where they've really kind of gotten going. But you look at last year's game; it was a clear blow up. But I think we have to remember Justin Herbert didn't play in that game. It was a game where look, they just didn't really get much going. The problem I have with Oregon in this game though is I don't really have much to go on from this group. I mean, they really haven't played anyone. I mean, they played, Portland State, San Jose State, just not a ton of real good competition. I love Herbert. I think this offense is terrific as always with Tony Brooks James in the backfield and obviously Herbert throwing it. I think they've improved on the defensive end, but this is obviously a big test. I think for Stanford, I think the problem you have with them is when you stack the box, they now have a quarterback that can find, other players and he could find receivers. You look at kind of what San Diego State wanted to do or against Stanford was stack the box, don't let Bryce Love beat you. The problem is KJ Costello can hit you from the with his arm, get it to Arcega Whiteside or whoever. You look at him in that game, they finally have a passer, which is dangerous. And that's why Stanford has looked so good. They have that passer now that, if you can stop and bottle up Bryce Love, you got to deal with that now. So it's a difficult handicap, and I'm not sure that Oregon is going to be able to stop that. I'm looking towards the over in this game. I think a lot of people want to go and think that Stanford's this kind of slow offense. They kind of like they used to be. I'm not so sure. I think they're a bit better offensively, obviously, than people think. I think defensively they have their concerns, and I think against this Oregon team at home, they're going to have trouble getting stops. I think this is more of a shootout than anything because I feel both offenses will actually have to throw the ball. I don't know that Stanford will have a great day running the ball, so I think they're going to have to resort to throwing it. We know Oregon will always do that. So I'm looking more along the lines of an over 56. You don't get overs with Oregon very often in the fifth.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, Stanford, they're not exactly up tempo, but especially if you can't stop their run and they can pass and throw, I could see that happening. I'm certainly not biting at the chumps to bet the under. This is the Saturday night ABC game, guys. If you got anything on it, let us know. Also, we will hit on the Friday games and tonight's game if Big Man has anything on it. I don't, but yeah, this should be a good one. And I'm with you. At first, I looked Oregon in the points, but they really haven't played anybody yet, Big Man, like you touched on. And Stanford has. Even San Diego State, is a quality opponent, whereas Oregon hasn't played anybody to that caliber even. And
Yeah,
not that it's a bad thing though, big man. You can't necessarily penalize them because they haven't played anybody. They could come out and still dominate. No.
no, of sure they can. And look, they're going to remember last year. I mean, 49-7. I mean, you look the last 2 years. I mean, 49-7 and 52-27. They have been absolutely owned by the Stanford team. You'd expect Autzen Stadium to be terrific on Saturday night. Oregon is a team that now with this, improved defense, they're a team that you have to kind of look at and say, well, maybe we need to start buying into this group again. You have to figure also. I mean, Stanford's force 7 turnovers. Oregon has to take care of the football. I think if they can take care of the football, they'll be surely in this game. I'm just really looking at it from perspective of I just think we're going to see more big plays than not. Both these teams aren't necessarily what we think they are. I think they're more or less very good offenses. Their defenses are good. They're not great. You don't have that. Stanford's I think problem this year is they don't have that really high end pass rush that they've had in years past. I think that puts a lot of pressure on their defense, but they're going to get tested in this one. You can also say to Stanford, well, have they really been tested? You played USC with a freshman quarterback. That was impressive, I guess. But San Diego State doesn't necessarily throw the ball, and they had a decent day on the ground, and UC Davis isn't going to give you much pushback. So I think both teams will be tested. I think for the total, that probably means something good. If this total was 61, probably wouldn't be as interested, but 55, 56, I'd go over the number. As far as Drew, tonight's game, quickly, I'd strongly urge people to check out our other shows that we do. I know you do other shows. We go over all the games like a few different times. As far as tonight's game, many people know I'm very close to Temple. I think the number suits them tonight. I think they'll beat Tulsa. The run game's gotten going. Tulsa's had trouble against the run. It's not a game I'm in love with, but I think anything under a touchdown, I'd buy in on Temple.
Yeah, I don't have much on tonight's game. It is a huge Friday card, though. I do like something on Friday's card, so we'll get to that after the 4 games we'll cover here. And yeah, just looking at the chat box, we got Zach Jones in. What's up, buddy? Let us know what you want to hear about. Troy also saying thoughts on USC Washington State over. Yeah, Troy, that's coming up in about 15-20 minutes. But big man, let's hit on some of these games that we went over before. Texas A&M. Alabama, Texas A&M going on the road. Big one here in the SEC. You would think this spread at 26, big man, would be the biggest in the SEC with 2 teams in the SEC West, but actually it's not, with Auburn and Arkansas sitting at 30. Do you think Texas A&M can stay within about 4 touchdowns here against the Tide?
I think they can. This is obviously the sternest test yet that Alabama's going to face. Texas A&M is a real team. They have a good coach. They have a good offense. And defensively, I think they're improved. This is where you're going to find out if Mike Elko is worth, getting that kind of money, because this is a big test. To me, I would probably go over the number in this game. I don't really want to go against Alabama right now. Gun in my head, I'd take the Texas A&M, but I think there's value in the total. I think with the Aggies, they're developing more of a balanced approach with Mond. He's been able to throw the ball and move with his legs. Look, I thought Alabama last week, I thought that was one of the more impressive things I've ever seen, holding Ole Miss to 7 points. That's almost impossible. Drew, Ole Miss are an unbelievable offensive team. All they do is throw the ball downfield. They're glitzy and glammy. Holding them to 7 points is quite impressive. To say you can do that 2 weeks in a row, I just don't know that I see it. Obviously, we know Alabama's offense is a bit more, obviously fluid. They're going faster. They're throwing the ball a lot more. Tua is more known for his arm as opposed to his running ability. He's been pretty much flawless, frankly. I think he could have a career game here throwing the football. I don't know that I trust Texas A&M's defense. I'm just not ready to believe in it just yet. I'm looking at this game. It's only 60-61. I think this is like a 41-24 type of game, 41-26, 44-26, something like that. I just think this number is a bit too low. I've told you before, I'm not huge on some of these big marquee games. There's so much that goes into them. I think, people will reference the Clemson game, but here's the problem. That game is in Kyle Field. This isn't. This is on the road in Tuscaloosa. It's a different situation, but this is definitely the sternest test. And Jimbo Fisher, his ear has gotten off pretty well here so far, and I think he'll have something for Alabama, but I'm looking for points here.
Yeah, big man. This is the 3:30 CBS game in the SEC, and Texas A&M, their offense is pretty good. I think Mon can really throw it around, but as you just touched on against Ole Miss with what their quarterback Tamu, he's pretty good as well. And they scored on their first drive, so it went 50+ minutes scoreless against that Alabama defense, which does not bode well for their opponents.
It's impressive. It really is. And you look at Texas A&M. Here's what you need to do. You need to continue to produce in time of possession. You look at in the country, Texas A&M 6th in the country in time of possession, averaging almost 36 minutes a game. They have to continue that. It doesn't bode well for an over, let's say, necessarily, but if they can do that, they surely can cover. It's a tough game because no one wants to step in front of Alabama right now. But you're right, it doesn't bode well for Texas A&M that Alabama was so good defensively. It's amazing though because I thought the weak part of their team was their secondary. So I don't know if Ole Miss just kind of threw in the towel, but um, we'll see.
Big man, would you take Alabama or the field to win the national championship if you had to
I'd
had to
take
bet
Al-
it?
I'd take Alabama. I think they're, it's getting to the point with this team where, I mean, I don't know how you pick anyone else. I mean, you look at the rest of the country, everyone has flaws. I mean, can you say who the second best team in the country is? Is it Clemson? Because I this
It may
team's
be.
struggled at times. I mean, I guess they are by kind of choice, but I don't think anyone's on Crimson Tide level right now, especially if their offense keeps playing like this. Defensively, they're always going to be very good. I would surely take Alabama. I don't see anyone in the field that really does too much for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how they don't make it into the playoffs, and then they're only going to have 2 games against, quality opponents, obviously. But it's just tough to think that they're not going to win it, especially with straight up odds like that, big man. Hey,
Yeah,
let's move on. Oh, yeah,
real
finish it
quick,
up, bud.
I've talked about. I think Clemson will get to the Final Four. They're going to go undefeated, Drew. I mean, the schedule stinks. I mean, they're going to get to the Final Four, and by that time, I mean, you and I both know, Drew, that a team in September is way different in December. So, yeah, I think if anyone's going to beat them, it would be Clemson. Obviously in kind of that revenge situation from last year, but they're about the only team at this point I would think that could beat Alabama.
I hope the playoff committee kind of makes it so if Alabama's number one, that 4 team is more of a wide open spread offense instead of, like they gave him Michigan State a couple years ago and it was like kind of the
Yeah,
same thing as Alabama, but just not as good.
sure.
And that won't bode well for ratings, in my opinion, anyway. Hey, big man, let's go 425, 426, the late night degenerate special out in Hawaii. We got one of your basketball schools traveling to the island. I'm not seeing a line on SBR odds right now. That's not to say that there
37.
won't be one. Where are you seeing that?
Somebody on SBR posted. I want to say at 5 dimes. I think they have it.
Okay, is it minus 120 juice? Probably.
I believe so. According to there's an article on SBR. I'm trying to remember who wrote it. I want to say Mark Lathrop wrote it. I think he said that he had 37 and 67 on a total.
Interesting. A total for this as well. Anyway, would you look to bet? Would you look to lay 37 with the Rainbows, Rainbow Warriors?
I'm not necessarily looking to, but if I had to, I would very much lay it. I actually seen Duquesne play. I took them week one against UMass out in Vegas. I threw it in kind of, group of bets that I was making. I think it was the one game I had lost on that weekend and involving with baseball and preseason. But yeah, I mean, Duquesne are a team, Drew, that are really bad on defense. And right now they're dealing with some wholesale injuries in their secondary. You got to go across the country out over to Hawaii. This is a this is a spot you almost salivate for when you're a sports bettor because you have a team in Duquesne here that is an FCS team. Many of these kids that go to Duquesne are from Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, West Virginia, Ohio. Um, they've never been to Hawaii. It's a bad spot. I know it's a kind of a business trip, they'll try to say, but it's Hawaii at the end of the day, and it's a beautiful place. And you're going to want to go out and kind of see it. But this is a tough spot for a team like Duquesne. Here's something I do want people to know. They're good offensively. They have a quarterback, Drew, named Daniel Parr. He used to be at Florida Atlantic. He was the quarterback last year. He's really gotten it going the last couple of weeks. They have also a receiver named Nahari Crawford. He's an NFL type of player. He's probably a kid that will play on Sundays. He has John Ross type of speed, a Christian Kirk type of player. He's coming off a game, Drew, where he had 11 receptions, over 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a guy that against this Hawaii defense can get loose. He could have one of those big time games. There used to be a receiver, Drew, from UMass named Tajay Sharp. He plays for the Titans, I believe, in the NFL. He used to have these crazy games where he'd have like 17 receptions. Crawford could have a big game like that. He's probably like kind of the only player they have to throw to. He could have one of those big games. I would imagine Hawaii would get close to 60 in this game. I'm blown away at the total being only 67. I was thinking we'd have to play 75, something like that. This is one that I think you can bet with confidence. I'm sure Hawaii. I mean, UMass put up 63 on Duquesne. I mean, Hawaii might
Hawaii's
score every time
offense is
they have
better
the
than
ball.
UMass. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could do one of those good old here in South Philly, Drew. We have a bet called a reverse. Basically, you pick two sides, two totals, whatever, and if both hit, you get 4 times what you bet. This could be a great reverse. Hawaii in the over. This could be I don't know, a 58-17 type of game, something like that. 58, 13. It wouldn't surprise me if Hawaii scores 67 themselves. This is a very good offense that is going to be on the front foot, especially off a loss. It's homecoming out in Hawaii. It's a good spot for Hawaii, Drew.
I like this. Like, you just sold me, man. I like this over. And you bring up Daniel Parr. He was pretty good at FAU. I was actually wondering what the heck happened to him. And so he goes to
Yeah.
Duquesne. And what type of offense do they run? Are they more spread out or kind of pounders
They're
down your
spread
throat?
out up tempo. They go quick, Drew. That's what they normally do out with the Dukes. I think a lot of people look at the game against UMass and say, well, they only put up 15 points. Look, I think if you can get 15 points out of them in this game, that's a win for you. I mean, this team put up 45 the week after. They put up 31 last week against the Dayton Flyers. Look, if you can get 14 out of them, I think this game goes over because you have to figure Hawaii's going to go for 55 in this.
Yeah, and
So
they're the
yeah, I
type
mean,
of team. Hawaii's the type of team that will pour it on. When you watch them, they don't stop throwing the ball in the second quarter when they're up 20 points. They keep going.
no. If you watch Scott Van Pelt's Bad Beats, they've been on it a couple times. They had a game. I want to say the last game they played in Hawaii, the game before the Army game. Who was that against? Rice. There was a
Yeah, against
terrible
Rice.
beat in that game. Yeah, they had a terrible beat. They scored like 19 points in the final like 3 minutes. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, I like this. So over 67, we got a question here from Joey saying the Hawaii team total. Now, almost for sure they don't have team totals up on FCS FBS yet, do they?
No, I would say it'd probably be in the 52, 54 range, something like that. They're going to have to
Yeah.
score a lot of points here, but all indications are they can do it. And I think the big important thing to mention is this Duquesne team is bad, defensively as it is, and they're going to be hobbled in this game. They have a couple players out. A kid named AJ Hines, who's one of their better corners, he's out for this game. Travel's going to be a bear for this one. It's kind of a weird schedule. I mean, this is basically midnight Eastern. So
Hmm.
body clocks are going to be off on this one too. So it's tough.
Yeah, but most Hawaii games are the 6 o'clock Hawaii start. Yeah, 12 midnight Eastern.
Yeah, but
So
I'd be curious to read when when Duquesne's getting there. I can't imagine they have terrific travel schedules. I'm gonna have to look forward to that.
where is Duquesne again?
Duquesne is in Pittsburgh.
Wow, Pittsburgh to Honolulu. I'm guessing what Pittsburgh
I,
to
I, I gotta tell you,
Los Angeles.
I gotta tell you, this is an impressive. This is an impressive game. I'm not sure why you schedule this game if you're Duquesne. I mean, obviously it's a money game, but this is a tough game for your kids. I mean, this is a lot of travel for a team that you look at out of conference. Drew, they played Lock Haven. Lock Haven is a school in Pennsylvania. It's a D2 school. It's kind of in the mountains. I mean, those are the kind of teams they're playing out of conference. Valparaiso. I mean, teams like that. It's a tough
It's a
spot if
basketball
you're
conference.
yeah,
Yeah, for
Dayton
sure. Well,
and
you
Val.
sold me. You sold me,
Oh,
big man. I'm betting the over. I hope you jump on it with me Saturday night to end your Saturday with the nightcap degenerate special. We'll end it with this over 67. I'm on it. Any other recommendations for you?
yeah, I'm looking at over too. It just seems too low. Um, I think Hawaii wins pretty big too. I mean, this team destroyed Navy. I mean, I don't see why they can't destroy the Dukes. By the way, Drew, do you know who the most famous Duquesne alum is?
I don't think I could name one Duquesne alum, so no.
One of the most famous alums, and many don't know this, but do you know who T.J. McConnell is? He's a basketball player, played at Arizona.
Hmm.
He's
Yeah,
played for the Sixers. He actually went to
yeah.
Duquesne originally. His father is TJ's father is a great basketball coach in Pennsylvania. He coaches at the high school level, and McConnell actually went to Duquesne he went to Arizona. There you go.
Good stuff, big man. All right. Well, Hawaii, Duquesne, we broke it down. I doubt anybody's going to break it down like Big Man just did. So let's get back to reality. We will head to college football in the SEC. Georgia, Missouri. We were just talking about best teams in the country outside of Alabama. Georgia's probably in the running there. The rotation number on SBR odds is 403, 404, 12 noon Eastern start. Looks like the Bulldogs laying 14 on the road. Big man, when I first looked at this, I thought this number would be bigger. I'll tell you. I'm leaning with the Bulldogs, even though it is on the road. Missouri looks like 65 the total. Do you have any opening thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, if you know me, I think Drew Lock is the most underrated quarterback in the country. I think as far as a pure quarterback, he might be the best quarterback in the country. He's a terrific player. And if Tua wasn't having such success, Drew Lock would be talked about a lot more. But you look at this game. This is a tough game. I mean, you're basically facing one of the better defenses in the country. A team that's made a crazy splash. I mean, they're always going to get after you. I also look at the competition that Missouri's faced. I mean, you look at kind of struggling against Purdue last week. They just couldn't get a stop in that game, Drew, and that's a major concern for me because you got to be able to stop Georgia, and I don't think they can. Now, this is a tough spot for Missouri. It is at home. It's an early start, which I generally hate. I hate early starts, and they're ones that I'm going to stay away from. But yeah, I think the line is strikingly too low for me. I think there's a big step up, and I wonder if Missouri can get any stops. Over might be okay because this could be a garbage game where at the end, I mean, Missouri's just throwing to put some points on the board. I, 61's high though. I think Missouri will cover. It's not a game I'm in love with, but I think Purdue really tested Missouri. That was actually one of the better games of the weekend last week. I think they have a lot of trouble against this Georgia offense.
Yeah, I think with Missouri stepping up in class, I just think they don't have the horses to kind of sit here with to stay in there with Georgia. And as it gets into the third, fourth quarter, I could see Georgia just pounding them down. I like laying the 2 touchdowns with Georgia. I already bet it for a little bit. Not one of the bigger plays of the weekend, but I'm with you, Georgia. I think they're just out of Missouri's class. You mentioned Drew Lock. He can throw it around. They'll likely put it in the end zone a couple times, but I just don't think they'll be able to stop him. Like you said, Purdue was giving them a show. So stepping up in class here against Georgia, I don't see it. I like the
Yeah,
dogs -4.
yeah, I think you're dead on the money. And the problem they have with Georgia is I kind of got too cute with them. I thought South Carolina could give them a game in Columbia, and they wiped them right off the floor. Georgia's real good. I mean, I think they're a team that you also kind of consider that maybe could give Alabama a run for their money. Jake Fromm's obviously terrific. They have a great running game. Yeah, it seems a bit too low here. That's a good point on the chat by one of the commenters, DT Duggs. Georgia was a 28-point favorite last year. You basically cutting that in half. Not sure I see that.
It was in Athens, but you're right. I guess Missouri could be a little bit better, but not much better. Not 2 touchdowns better in just 1 year. We got Wayne saying, "What's up? What's up, Wayne?" Guys in the chat box, we just hit on the games we're supposed to hit on, so we can go anywhere with this. Definitely want to talk some Friday action. Great Friday card, by the way, big man. You bet anything for Friday night?
Yeah, it is a great Friday card, and I've talked ad nauseum about that Penn State Illinois game, which I find fascinating. And if you look, Penn State's down to under 4 touchdowns, so some money coming in on Illinois. This Illinois team, Drew, have a ton of I've watched a ton of them. I find them fascinating because I think they're a lot better than normal. They've gotten I think the big kind of point with Illinois is they've done a nice job this year without a few of their best players. Some of their best corners have been suspended. They have an all-American tight end. He's been suspended. A defensive lineman was suspended as well. So they're getting back wholesale reinforcements here on their defense and on offense to a team that's already been able to play pretty well. And you look at their run game, I mean, they've had 200 more rushing yards in every game this season. And Penn State does struggle against the run. That's one thing that I think you got to kind of point out. Kent wasn't really able to run on them, but Pittsburgh and App State were able to move the ball on the ground. And Mike Epstein is a terrific player for Illinois. This is just kind of a tough spot for the Nittany Lions. You're going out to Illinois on a Friday night. Then you got to come back and you got a whiteout kind of waiting for you against Ohio State. It's a tough spot if you ask me. I think Penn State is a big game for them because if they can go out here and win by 40, I mean that's impressive coaching. If you can get your team up for this kind of game and get them to focus, they're gonna win this game, Drew. Why do they have a total concern with winning by 30 or 40? If they can do that, that's impressive.
Yeah, I like this game the second most on the Friday card, big man. I'll tell you, Penn State going on the road. So it's a short week here with Friday night, short time to prepare. And this is Lovie Smith's most talented team, I believe, since he's been in Champaign. They're the home team. And really, you bring up Epstein. He's a Florida native, so they got him up there. He's
Yeah.
he's a hell of an athlete. And I'll tell you, big man, he's averaging over 7 yards per touch. And Illinois, if you watch them play, they run a lot of counter and traps, which can be tough for defensive fronts to prepare for. Add in the short week. They don't have a lot to prepare for Illinois. I could see Illinois kind of shortening up the game, staying within this number. I like the Illini plus 28. I already bet it.
Yeah, I think you make some real good points. Epstein is a real good player. He's a kid that I think can really give Penn State some problems. Penn State's giving up over 4.5 yards a carry, which I have a big concern about. The one thing that I want to kind of keep my eye on in this game. Here's how you don't cover numbers like this: stupid penalties, extending drives. Illinois had major issues with penalties. 112th in the country in penalty yards per game. That's over 78. That's a problem for me. They have to make sure they don't lose their head in games like this because you can't give a team like Penn State extra drives to make sure, if they can keep that stuff down, I think you have enough room here to cover this one. If this was, 20, I think we'd all know where to go. But getting over, if you bet it early, getting over 4 touchdowns, I think that's a way to look at this one for sure.
Yeah, big man. And I mean, we have Tomar saying Champaign isn't a hard place to play at. I mean, it definitely hasn't been the last few years because they've had really nothing to cheer about. I would, I'm not saying they're walking into, Baton Rouge at night here, but it's just the way I'm looking. Obviously, they could lose. I mean, and James Franklin isn't exactly the coach I look to bet against because, like we were talking about, when a team gets up, they pour it on like Hawaii. He'll do the same. This is the same. He's kind of a jerk. He called a timeout to kick a field goal against Georgia State up 40 points like a year or two ago. That was kind of ridiculous. So he'll run it up on you too.
Yeah, I think with him, he can be a real prick, and I'm not a fan of his. But I feel like in this spot, you might look to maybe kind of get out of there earlier. Get if you're up 30 in this game, I just don't really see the point of continuing to try to punch things in. That's where injuries happen. This team, I think, are well aware they're a good football team. You need to be ready for the big part of your season. And look, I wasn't particularly high on Penn State coming into the season. They've lost a lot of talent from last year's team. I still think they're a good team, but I thought they were a bit overrated coming into the season. They're good. I don't think they're great. So I'm not really sure this number's warranted. If this was last year, maybe, but not as interested this year.
We also got Sean Thompson in the chat bringing up a good point. It's worth a look after what they did against South Florida on defense last year. And they're similar type offenses. I will say McSorley's a better quarterback than South Florida's quarterback. But other than that, they run similar style offenses. So they did perform well against them.
Hey, Drew. I actually know about that game last week. I had the over in that game. And I was unbelievably surprised at how good Illinois played against South Florida. They were all over the place. They were great. They were hitting people. They did look good, and that's a good point. South Florida's a tough offense. Blake Barnett can move the ball around. This obviously will be a bigger test, but yeah, it's a good point by him. They were very good last week.
Sonny Vega, what's up, man? Also, my favorite game for Friday night. I'll just hit it, and then you can go in conclusion. We did talk about this with Kelly. You like the over, she liked the over. I bet the over for a little bit, but I like the side a little bit more here. Big man, we got USC versus Washington State. Washington State catching 3.5 or 4. You can find possibly out there using SBR odds. And I'll tell you, I think Washington State's the side here. We got Minshew, the senior quarterback, going up against a true freshman quarterback, big man. And Mike Leach, on the road against Clay Helton, who's 0-6 versus Power 5 opponents without Sam Darnold as his quarterback. It's a crazy stat. We know good quarterbacks can kind of cover up inefficiencies with a program, and I think that's happening with Sam Darnold and USC. So kind of putting that out. And their kicker, I think he'll be out with a spread at 3 or 4 here. That's always important. I'm on Washington State +4. One of my biggest bets of the weekend. What do you think?
I hate to burst your bubble, Drew, but you can get 5 now on this game.
Let's do it. I'm pouring
yeah.
on more.
Yeah, I think I look at this game and I made it very clear. I didn't think USC was a top 25 team coming into the season. A lot of people thought I was nuts saying that, but I didn't see it. I don't think they're very good, frankly. I think Daniels has to take some lumps. He should be able to move the ball. Washington State hasn't been very much tested offensively, but and they actually have the third best defense in the country right now. But I think that has a lot to do with the schedule they face. They're going to be tested in this game. My bigger question is this number's dropped. It was 53 early in the week. It's down to 50.5 at Pinnacle and 51 at most books. But you got to look at this game and you ask yourself, why is the number coming down? I thought the number was low to begin with. I mean, both these teams are very high powered. They want to throw the football. I think both defenses are a bit overrated. I think this could be the game where I didn't think Clay Helton was on the hot seat because how great he's done over the last couple of years, but the start hasn't been good over the last game or two. Would anyone be surprised if Wazoo go in and win this game? I mean, it looks like one of those spots where like the world comes falling down for USC. They have a great quarterback in Minshew, great weapons on the outside, a defense that's improved. Hey, why not take the 5 points?
Yeah, USC's 0-3 ATS, Washington State 3-0. Also, Washington State's scored 52-0 against their opponents in the fourth quarter. Always a great stat, fourth quarter scoring at this point in the season. Big man, where do you want to go from here? What games do you want to bring up? You like BYU, don't you?
I want to talk about that game. I don't necessarily like BYU, but I do have an interesting kind of caveat on that game. It's an added game, kind of like we talked about with Hawaii there. BYU and McNeese State. For anyone, obviously, that's been living under a rock, BYU has been terrific. Went on the road last week, beat Whiskey in Madison. That's tough to do, Drew. Also beat Cal in Arizona, 2 Pac-12 teams. You look at next week, though. Big game against Washington. I know people say, but they're independents, big man. That doesn't matter. If you're an independent, you need high-profile wins. You want to win ththose kind of games. And at 3-0, they'll probably be 4-0 after this game. Get some big games coming up. A big look-ahead game after kind of a game where you think you'd have a letdown game on the road, Drew, in McNeese. Actually, I'm sorry, this is in BYU. Sorry, but McNeese State is a team that I don't want to bore people with, but they're pretty good. I mean, they're 17th in the country coming into the season in the FCS. If you know anything, Drew, UL Monroe's coach, Matt Theater, was used to be at McNeese State. He won 78 games there. He did a great job. Lance Gudry's come in and done a great job. They have a quarterback that's been able to move the ball, 44 touchdowns over the last 2 years. They have a great run game. You get a BYU team that struggled a little bit against the run, 79th in the country. I think this is going to be an ugly game. Both these teams, are generally kind of slower paced, not very up tempo. I'm interested to see what the number comes out at in this game because I think McNeese has maybe a shot to sneak inside the number. It's a down spot with a game you got to look ahead to if you're BYU at Washington off a big win. It's a tough spot for BYU. I might look towards the FCS Cowboys here.
All right, I like it. So going FCS versus FBS, like in the FCS team catching points. We got Ole Miss saying Florida, Tennessee under 47. Thank me later, guys. Do you have any opinion on, I guess, what used to be a huge SEC matchup?
Couldn't care less about that game, really. I think I guess you go under, but I'm not really looking to bet unders in college football a whole lot anymore. Just aren't. But yeah, I don't have a big opinion. Two bad offenses, two defenses that are a bit better than normal. Yeah, it might be a decent play under the number. I think a game, Drew, that obviously want to take a look at here. Navy SMU. I mean, has
Go
anyone
at it.
watched Southern Meth? Has anyone watched Southern Methodist? I mean, this
They
team
don't
is
play
dreadful.
defense.
No, and they don't get any. They don't score either. 18 points a game, and this is exactly what you didn't want if you're Sonny Dykes, because Sonny Dykes is a complete airhead. He has no idea how to coach. But one thing he could always fall back on, Drew, is he had like Jared Goff at quarterback. You don't have
Yeah.
those quarterbacks anymore. You're only scoring 18 points a game. You're giving up 44. Your completion percentage is at 50%. It's just not good enough. Here's another problem you also will have in this game. If you look at the weather, looks to be thunderstorms all day down in Dallas. You have a team in Navy that suits just fine. If you watch the game against TCU, SMU just Drew, have you ever been to California and when it rains, have you ever seen how they drive in California? They drive like complete assholes. They have no idea what they're doing. And that's how SMU looked last week. They had no idea what they were doing with the ball. Couldn't catch, couldn't do anything. They looked, you know, all over the place. It was very odd. I think this number's too low. Navy should get the job done here. Navy's tightened up a bit lately defensively. We're great against Memphis the other night, about 2 weeks ago in the rain. Rain suits Navy. I think that's a pretty solid play on the road.
You know what's a good analogy for that when you're trying to say that? One is Floridians driving in snow, but an even better one is this. Have you ever watched the San Diego Padres grounds crew when it rains?
Okay.
They like really don't know what
Uh,
to do. It's kind of funny. You
It
can
doesn't
Google
rain
it.
often,
Or
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
So they're not even ready
it's
to
a
go.
great analogy. It's probably like when you have to go out and shovel a driveway. You don't do that very often, do you, Drew?
I've never done it in
So
my life.
it's
Don't want to.
yeah. Well, I
Have you
don't
ever
either,
done
and I
that?
do it. Oh yeah, all the time when I was a kid. I actually have good stories about that. Digging out a handicap because here where we're at, Drew. One of the cardinal rules is when you dig your spot out, that's your fucking spot. If anyone else takes it, I've seen people get beat up over that kind of stuff. You do not take someone's spot. You take a chair and you put it out in your spot. Well, I've heard people get out and move the chairs and park there. I've seen people's windshields get bashed in. People get beat up over that kind of stuff. Don't take someone's spot after they fucking cleared it out.
I'll take your word for it, big man. Hey, let's get back to football. We got 351, 352 Buffalo Rutgers, the MAC team laying 5.5 on SBR odds on the road, 52 the total. I like Buffalo here, big man. I really do. Are you with me?
I mean, look, I'm going to say this because I don't want to get this the opinion misconstrued. On paper, I agree with you. But you look at this line, Drew. Well, there are 5 games, most bet games on the card. This game, I believe, is the 4th most bet game. I think 82% are on Buffalo, yet the line is going the opposite way. This just screams trap to me. I love Buffalo. I love watching this team. I think they have NFL caliber receivers. If Jackson didn't play on Buffalo, he'd be a Heisman Trophy, kind of candidate. He's a terrific player. Defensively, they're real good. They have a kid named Khalil Lodge. He's a tackling machine. Reminds you a lot of Khalil Mack when he first got to Buffalo. And Drew, I find this astounding. Buffalo +6 turnover margin, 8th in the country. Rutgers -9. They're dead last in the country in turnovers. And it's kind of amazing to think about this, Drew. But over the last 3 games, Rutgers has turned the ball over 12 times. 12. Buffalo's grabbed 8 turnovers. If they turn the ball over, this will be a runaway. I probably will bet this game just on principle because I really don't want to look at this game and it's Saturday night and it's 37-10 and I'm like, damn, that game was a 5-point number. But I wouldn't consult and say I would run out and bet it. I think if you have responsible betting habits and you have a little bankroll, I think it's worth a unit, but I'd also wouldn't be surprised if Rutgers win because it just looks too good to be true for me.
Yeah, it's Big Ten athletes versus MAC athletes, and this was the degenerate special yesterday on the roundtable. It was a good roundtable if you get a chance to watch it. Um, Big man, where do you want to go? Can we go late night action on Saturday?
Listen, Drew, um, you can do whatever you want. I will talk about any game. I will talk about, the fact that I only drink Fiji water. I'll talk about the fact that I don't, use hotel towels. I can talk about whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. I'm a fucking open book.
Eastern Michigan at San Diego State before we get to the
Woo!
hotel
Good
towels.
one.
San Diego State 12 at home, 50 and a half. This is a degenerate special as well, 10:30 Eastern kickoff here. I like San Diego State. I'm going to lay it with them. I'm interested in your opinion on if Eastern Michigan can stop San Diego State's run game. Do you think they can?
No, I don't, because they've given up almost 6 yards a carry this year. They're giving up over 231 yards a game. No, I don't have a lot of confidence that the Eagles can go out on the road and win. It's a tough travel. This is again all across the country. You're playing late night. You're playing a team that has a bye week next week, and again they have Boise State after that. But a bye week's always nice. Kind of recharge yourself. I got to tell you, man, the backup quarterback that San Diego State's been throwing out there, Christian Chapman's been injured, and I got to tell you, Ryan Agnew looked real good last week in kind of he wasn't great from a completion percentage standpoint, but he seemed to make the throws that you needed him to make on third down. And you look at San Diego State defensively, one of the better run defenses in the country. Rocky Long, you always know is going to give you something great on the defensive end, and I think Eastern Michigan's a team with a quarterback that's young. I think he's going to have some trouble in this game. You're not going to be able to run the ball. San Diego State, Drew, give up 1.67
I know.
yards per carry. That's amazing. And keep in mind, they faced Bryce Love and I think held him to 8 yards. I mean, this team is absolutely terrific against the run. The word today, Drew, is terrific, as you can hear, and they're terrific. I think Eastern Michigan has a lot of trouble moving the ball here. And you have a pretty solid number. You're not going to ever see SDSU win 58 nothing. They don't do that. But I think this is a tough spot for a pretty green and young Eastern Michigan team.
Yeah, I want to make my best bet for the student section here. San Diego State minus 11 and a half, actually. SBR odds, you can find that right now at the Greek right now. Also, CG Technology if you're in Vegas. Big man, we can just, you guys, if you want any games here at the end, throw them in the chat box real quick as we shut this down. Russell asking if I bet on soccer. I have. I bet on when I lived in Costa Rica. I bet on a couple Costa Rican games, and I actually did fairly well. I think I went 3-2, and as the positive. Big man, any soccer
That's great.
recommendations?
No, no. I think tomorrow there's a decent spot in the England Championship. The England Championship is the second level of English football. It's Bristol City and Wigan. Both teams have given up a lot of goals. I'd look towards the over in that game. Fun, should be a fun game. Wigan's a team that just came up from the third level. They've had some trouble kind of getting into playing better teams. They're giving up a lot of goals. I think we see at worst a 2-1 game. Drew, one other point with college football I just wanted to throw out. I think we're looking at possibly the worst defense we've ever seen at this level. And I talked about this at IFBC, and I'm going to talk about it again right now. UConn are absolutely disastrous on defense. Drew, they're giving up, think about this, 8.21 yards per carry. That's a lot of fucking yards, man. I mean, the second worst
Yeah.
is Bowling Green. They're giving up 6.74. So they're giving up almost 2 yards more per rush than everyone else. And you look at it gets worse, Drew. Their pass defense is historically bad also. I mean, you're giving up 15 yards per completion. They've given up 1,125 passing yards. They're just dreadful. It's just a horrendous team. I'm concerned about UConn. This might be the worst team I've ever seen at this level defensively. It's quite amazing.
I agree with you. They're pretty rough. Their quarterback's all right, Pinnell, but they have had a little bit of a tough schedule with UCF and teams that can run it up. But I'm with you. I wouldn't like to bet on them. We got Natalie in the chat box saying hello, big man. Hello, Natalie. Thanks
And
for
that
chiming in.
she's saying nothing from the Premier League show. No, I'm hoping people go take a look at the video. Premier League punters. I'll tell you this: my favorite play in Premier League this week, Sunday, Everton, Arsenal Football Club over the total. It's a fun game. We should see 2-2. Might see 3-2. Fun game. Both teams love to go forward. Neither team's defends worth anything. They kind of remind me of UConn, Arsenal defending. They're just pure shit. Over the number in Everton Arsenal.
Guys, we really appreciate you watching the show, chiming in on the chat box. It's been live. This is the football betting hour, and for Thursday it's the student section. It will be Big Man on Campus and myself. Tomorrow's more NFL at the same time. But Big Man, we got to leave him with the best bet for you. Mine's San Diego State minus 11.5 late night on Saturday night. What about you, man? Throw something out there for the watchers.
Yeah, I'm gonna reference and I think at this point I just have to reference the opening line. I mean, Mark Lathrop threw it out at 67. I don't know if we can use that
Okay.
here, but I'm liking Hawaii Duquesne over right now. That's one I'll take a look at. It's a tough one because it's an added game, and most books aren't going to put those out until the day of. As far as a game that I think we look at from a game you can bet now. I think Navy takes care of SMU. I think SMU is a bad team with a quarterback that's just not very good right now. I don't think the weather suits. And I got to tell you, I like your play on Eastern Michigan against Eastern Michigan. San Diego State looked poised to kind of go into their bye. I think buys are always good because what they'll say is, Rocky Long's going to say to this team, look, let's go out and take care of business here. We got a week off coming up. Let's go out. Let's take it to this team. Let's not leave any doubt. And we can kind of concentrate. We're at home here. This team's coming across the country, playing late at night. I think you have a nice play there, Drew.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I bet it personally. And Big Man, so for the record, what is your best play? It's over 67 in the Hawaii game.
Yeah, for the people, I don't want to be that guy that gives out a play that not everyone can bet right now. So I'll be kind and I'll go. Let's go Navy minus 6.5.
Are you sure, man? If you feel better about the over in the Hawaii game, we can
Look,
do Chris
I like
opener. That's okay.
I like I like both games, but I'm not going to be one of these shitbags that comes on here and gives everyone a play they can't bet. I'm not sure if anyone will play the game anyway because I've not started out well in college football. But here's what I will say: I have the best info in the fucking world. I'm the best, one of the best in the business at doing what we just did. Drew and I, we kill it. All of you better watch this video. Take what we say. Make your own bets. But Drew, there ain't two better in this business than you and me. And if you want to put your knowledge up, come on, put yourself up, get on video, and let's do it. We run this, Drew. Great stuff. We're gonna go with both those. Let's rock with both. F it.
Navy, San Diego State. We're betting them Saturday. Big Man, great way to end it right there. We're up against it time-wise. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. I'm Drew Martin. You can follow me on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Make sure to check out the SBR rating guide for the best lines, the best sports books out there. So when Big Man talks about throwing out games that make sure you can bet, that's the spot you want to make sure before you sign up for a sports book that you can bet the games. Big Man, as we close it down, any closing words?
As always, Drew, thanks for having me on. As always, to all the listeners out there, hope you enjoy your weekend and good luck. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Drew.
Boom. Best of luck with your bets, guys. We will see you Monday for the student section as part of the football betting hour. Best of luck with your bets.